Hold it right there. It's time for Good Game Spawn Point. I'm Rad.
And I'm Gem. And today we've got 2 game reviews for you. The Endless Runner for mobile, Crash Bandicoot on the Run. And the wild platformer with colourful flair, Balan Wonderworld.
I always want to say Balan Wonderland because of Balan.
Look, me too. Did you know it was actually created by Yuji Naka, who used to be the head of the Sonic the Hedgehog games?
Land. Wonderland, Balan.
Okay, let's start the show.
Balan. So, Darren, it's been weeks now. Can you please tell us what this button does? Pretty please?
Is it something to do with lasering noobs? Or unlasering noobs?
Oh, it's really only the concern of the studio crew, and the director, of course. Just whatever you do not touch it.
Now, why don't you tell us what you've been playing this week?
All right. I've been chilling out with a strategic little village builder called Dorfromantic. Take the cool hexagonal tiles from Before We Leave and the careful placement of structures from Islanders, and you've got a Dorfromantic. It's a pretty simple game where you place tiles to build and grow your landscape. Even with a tutorial, it is a little tricky to understand everything you need to consider for perfect tile placement, but it only becomes more enjoyable as you figure it out. It's a beautiful, chill experience that absolutely tickles that one more go itch. And it's satisfying to connect your tiles and watch your little world start to stretch out. A lovely game from Berlin-based developers Tucana Interactive.
Tucana, play that game.
No, it's actually single player.
That was a joke, but that's okay. On to some E3 news. And while we did try and make the most of not E3 last year, this year, the Electronic Entertainment Expo will return as a free virtual event. The online-only gaming extravaganza will run from the 12th to the 15th of June and is set to feature live-stream press conferences, news, and games showcases. Nintendo, Xbox, and Ubisoft are amongst those taking part. But no word yet on whether Sony or Electronic Arts are looking to join the lineup, or perhaps stick to their own digital events.
I do wonder if these virtual events will be how we experience gaming Christmas from now on. Oh, but speaking of Christmas, did you see that someone built a giant Nintendo Switch, which I totally want for Christmas? Michael Pick, who describes himself as the casual engineer, has custom-built a Switch into a version 650% larger than your standard model. It is fully functional and can be played using the oversized Joy-Cons. He claims it's the biggest Switch in the world that's actually playable, and he even donated the finished product to a children's hospital.
That's so cool! The handiwork and creativity of some gamers, it just boggles my mind.
My mind sure is boggled.
100% boggled.
Unboggle those minds, you two. It's time for the review!
Crash Bandicoot is back again in a new endless runner called Crash Bandicoot on the Run.
If you've played other endless runners, then you'll have a good idea of what to expect. You control Crash as he automatically runs through levels, swiping in various directions to avoid obstacles and smash through crates. There's also good old Aku Aku masks, which protect you from taking a hit, or even make you invincible for a bit if you can collect 3.
You know, Rad, it's probably not fair to call it an endless runner because, well, technically it isn't endless. Each level is a fairly short little run until you reach a boss fight, which all play out more or less the same way, with them throwing obstacles at you until you get close enough to throw a thing at them. There are a few other modes too. There's a multiplayer mode where you try to outlast some other players, but every time I played the other players, they were bots. There are special challenges to complete, and collection runs where you need to harvest various resources.
I gotta be honest, I kinda wish it was an actual endless runner. I love games like Alto's Odyssey, for example, because every run is just a high score chase, which naturally ramps up the difficulty, so each and every run pushes your skills to the limit. But all the levels I played here was super easy and just a bit boring. Hopefully the later stages get more interesting, but because of the timers and stuff, I could only get so far.
Yeah, I did notice the challenge modes actually did throw me a real challenge. And those are where I had the most fun. Sadly, you're limited to how many times you can play those in a day.
And that's the big problem here. This is chock full of annoying mobile gaminess. For example, to even go on a run, you need to brew the right item to throw at the boss. So you need to go on collection runs just to collect the things you need to make the brew. And of course, they take time to brew. Unless, of course, you speed them up by spending premium currency. If you tell me to go away for half an hour, I'm not coming back, because I'm sorry, this game is not good enough to reel me back in.
Yeah, and there's a bewildering amount of collectibles and currencies. And at every turn, there's flashing exclamation marks and timers on special deals being thrown at you. Not to mention plenty of opportunities to watch ads for bonuses.
I know, right? Literally every time you open the game, they throw a bunch of stuff for you to buy in your face. I know it's standard practice for free mobile games. They have to make money somehow, but there's better ways to do it. I'm just sad to see them do this to Crash. He deserves better. So I'm giving Crash Bandicoot on the Run 1 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I get you. It does look and sound pretty good, though, and there is a decent, simple runner buried under all that faff in there. If you can look past that, it's all right. So I'm giving it 2 out of 5 rubber chickens. Okay, Rattles, time to see what kind of questions are a-brewing in the AskSP inbox this week.
Indeed it is, and there is nothing like the smell of freshly brewed gaming questions. So let's dive in with this video from Alana, Farron, and Rosalie.
Hi, GGSP. We have 2 questions for you. What are any good simulator games for the iPad? 2. What is a crewmate streak in Among Us? Can you do these emoticons, please, Rad?
I sure can. Hi! Hi! Ooh! Wah-ha! Wah, 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 wah.
Oh, very nice emoting there, Rat.
Oh, thank you, Jem. I'm actually a professional. And thank you, Alana, Farron, and Rosalie for your questions.
To answer your first one about good simulator games for iPad, well, it kind of depends what sort of simulation you're after. You're a bit of a fan of management sims in particular, aren't you, Rattles?
Yeah, I sure am. I love managing resources and tasks and systems and all of that good stuff. So I would highly recommend Mini Metro, which is all about managing train networks. And if you have Apple Arcade, there's Mini Motorways from the same developer. Developer Nimblebit also has a range of great sim-style options, like Pocket Planes, Pocket Trains, Tiny Tower, and Bit City for some city management. Aside from those, you might also enjoy Disco Zoo, if you like the idea of managing a zoo filled with disco dancing animals. And quite frankly, who doesn't?
I cannot think of anyone. You might also like to take something like House Flipper for a spin, or a flip. It's sort of a home renovation sim. Or if you want a farming sim with some great RPG and story elements, you're sure to have hours of fun with Stardew Valley. Or there's Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which is a mobile spin-off Animal Crossing game. I guess you could say that one is kind of a life simulator.
Oh, art simulates life. Now to answer your question about what a crewmate streak is in Among Us. Well, I believe this basically refers to the number of times in a row that you are a crewmate and not the imposter when playing Among Us.
Yes, and I, for one, have never been the imposter in my life, so I would know all about crewmate streaks.
Oh, Jem, that is definitely not true. That claim is very sus.
All right, you got me. Now let's have another video, and this one comes to us from Sasha.
Hi GGSP, Sasha here. I've got 2 questions for you today. First question, have you ever done a review on Octodad Dadliest Catch? And if you haven't, can you do so? And second question, do you reckon Roblox will ever be available on the Switch? Oh, and Darren, can you do these?
I most certainly can. ASCII-tastic. Sun impressed. Happy Cyclops. Winky dinky doo.
Thanks GGSP, bye.
Thanks, Sasha. Let me just double check your first question with Darren. I'm sure he'll remember he has a great memory chip.
Greetings! Darren here.
Hi, Darren. Sasha is wondering if Octodad Dadliest Catch was ever reviewed on the show.
Oh, affirmative. Barsha and Hex reviewed it, with a little help from yours truly, all the way back in 2014. You can search that out in our online archive to see what we all thought. Unsurprisingly, I was very good at the game.
Come on, Darren, get it together.
That's you again, Barsha.
It's you.
It was quite the reviewliest review, you could say.
Yeah, you could say that. Oh, okay, good to know. Thanks, Darren. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, on to the question of whether we think Roblox might ever come to Switch. Well, you know, if this crazy old topsy-turvy world has taught me anything, it's that almost anything is possible. And I guess that could include the possibility of Roblox coming to Switch one day.
I mean, you can get Roblox on Xbox, PC, and mobile devices, so I don't see why it couldn't ever happen. But having said that, I haven't caught wind of any specific plans for it.
Maybe that's because you can't actually catch wind. But who knows? One day we could be watching a Nintendo Direct and then bam, they announce it. We'll just have to wait and see.
And wouldn't you know it, bam! We are out of time for AskSP today. If you have a question for us, go here and send it in. And if it's a video and we select it for the show, we'll send you some cool GGSP stuff.
Oh, speaking of BAM, remember the BAM button we used to have?
Oh yeah, the BAM button! Did you find it?
No, but I did find this other button. And if Darren gets to have a mysterious button, why can't we have our own that he's not allowed to touch?
Oh, cool. What does this one do?
I actually don't think it does anything, but hey, Darren doesn't need to know that.
So can I press it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Ah!
Okay, Balan Wonderworld is many things. It's a platformer, it's a musical, it's a sports game. What I'm saying is it's doing a lot of things, but is it doing them well?
I found myself making that noise quite a lot too. That and Things kick off pretty quickly when our hero meets the mysterious figure with a hat for a head, Balan, who transports them to this ultra-colourful, dreamlike fantasy world. From a small floating island, home to the adorable Tims, you're able to go between the themed worlds that make up the bulk of the game. Within each one, you collect costumes with special abilities to help solve puzzles and get around, making your way through till you get to the final boss. It sounds pretty simple so far, but there's a whole bunch of weird design and story choices woven into this little package.
You can say that again. The big one for me is the controls. Aside from the joystick to move around and the bumpers to change costumes, the remaining buttons all do the same one thing depending on the costume you're wearing. Now, this wouldn't necessarily be a problem, but the way it's used here does affect the costumes themselves. There's 80 to collect, and each has a unique look to them, from kangaroo lookalikes to cute kitty cats to whatever that's meant to be. And all have some kind of ability, whether it be offensive, like shooting blocks of ice at enemies, or evasive, like being able to cross large distances or teleport through walls.
Which are super cool moves.
Totally, but because of that one button system, it means you only get one move per costume, which means of the 80 available, a good chunk of them won't let you jump. In a platforming game. That's like if Forza tried to get you to race but took off a wheel first.
And on top of that, if you get hit or fall, you lose that costume and you either have to backtrack to unlock it again or just hope you find it later on in the level. I don't know why they did that. Because inevitably you end up in a situation where you don't have a costume with the ability you need to get you through. So you have to restart the level. Which is so frustrating.
I don't think it would be such a problem if the levels themselves were fun to move around in, but they're just not. They're very colourful and there's lots of personality woven in. I especially liked the chess world and the Winter Wonderland. but there's no real challenge to them. It's more like a series of inconveniences and roadblocks getting in your way. There's also a handful of these golden Balan statues on each world that you need to collect in order to unlock further levels, which sometimes means having to go back and replay those sections with costumes you got from other worlds in order to reach them. And that back and forth very quickly ate away at my patience.
You and me both. You can gain up to 3 Balan statues in boss fights by working out the 3 kinds of ways you can attack them. But even these encounters lacked any kind of challenge. The only thing that separated them from a normal tussle was the fact that they're freaking huge!
At the beginning and end of these fights, though, we do get these gorgeous-looking cutscenes, almost short stories, about the people who were turned into these monstrous creatures through grief or rage. These are probably the best parts of the whole game for me. But then they're followed by these weirdly choreographed musical numbers, and then we're just dropped back on the island of the Tims, who do nothing there but eat my gems and run on a wheel. It just feels so disjointed.
For a game that seems to have a lot of fun cramming in as much as it can, there's just not a lot of explaining being done. Why are we here? Magic. How do we get out? Magic. Why do we have to dress up like mascots fresh out of a cursed amusement park? Stop asking silly questions. It's all magic.
And that's my biggest problem with Balan Wonderworld. It's trying to do too many things, but succeeding in very little of them. There are cool ideas in here, and occasionally I can see glimpses of what could have been a really interesting, if still pretty kooky, action platformer. But as it is, Balan Wonderworld is a mess of wonky controls, boring levels, and a story that borders on nonsense. So I'm giving it 1.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I can't say I recommend this at all, especially as a full-priced game. Everything from the way it looks to the way it plays is off-putting to me. And more to the point, it does nothing with the cool ideas it does bring to the table. I'm giving Balan Wonderworld 1 out of 5 rubber chickens. Well, now that that's over, let's take off these costumes and end the show.
Sounds good. You got the button?
I lost it. Feels a bit weird ending the show on a review and not AskSP.
I think this is a bit weirder, but yeah, fair enough. Next week on GGSP, we're getting into the Stardew Valley-like farm building of Story of Seasons Pioneers of Olive Town. And Gamers in the Wild takes a look at the social gamer.
On the surface, we see a pair of gamers about to engage in a friendly karting race. But much more is at stake.
Gamers. Such a fascinating species.
I've always thought the Trichosaurus vulpecula was fascinating.
The Trico, who's a what now?
Brush-tailed possum. It's Latin for furry-tailed little fox, but they're not foxes.
I'm always learning something new hanging out with you two. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Gem out.
Rat out.
Darren out. Now, let me tell you about the Pongo Pygmaeus.
The Pongo, who's a what now?